Hey, everyone. I'm your host, James Jackson, and this is ARCast Tech Talks. Join me each episode as we shine the spotlight on a solution provider, helping category managers, shopper insights, and space planning professionals tackle the challenges of today and the future. I think you'll agree this is an exciting time in our industry. While we are faced with complexities throughout the marketplace, this is an opportunity for us to really shine. So today we are here with Finn Hansen, and he is going to provide insights on pricing and what is going on with this area in our industry. Finn is an entrepreneur, speaker, and author with over 25 years of experience in international business. He has studied, worked, and lived in 6 different countries and done business across continents and cultures. His passion is to help businesses use pricing and revenue growth to win in competitive and dynamic markets. As CEO and co-founder of PriceBeam, an innovative cloud-based platform that delivers pricing insights quickly, accurately, and cost-effectively, he helps companies set optimal prices for new or existing products, manage international prices, identify value drivers, and position prices against competitors. Finn's goal is to empower businesses to achieve their full potential through pricing excellence and innovation. He believes that pricing is not only a science, and we hear this all the time, not only a science, but also an art. So good for that. And it requires a combination of market research, data analysts, and creative thinking. So Finn, we would love to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much, James. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, you've done a lot.
Yeah. And not only in consumer goods, but yeah, I've done quite a bit. Thank you for not mentioning my age.
No problem. Well, I'm really interested to talk to you today. There's, as I mentioned, a lot going on. And at the center of a lot of it, some of the concern is around pricing. It's effectiveness. What do I do? What are others doing? How do I go forward? So I do want to touch on that. We'll go deep. We'll go a lot of different places. So if you're ready, let's have some real talk. Cool. All right. So let's start at things looking kind of at the 30,000 foot level. So what are some of the concerns that you're hearing from your clients right now?
I think there's several. One of them is clearly around uncertainty, and you can call that business uncertainty. You can call it consumer uncertainty. Where are we going? Are people going to shrink their budgets? Can they afford the things? But also linked to uncertainty, it's affordability, in particular in consumer goods, both retail and in CPG. A lot of my clients are looking at options for, can we somehow make our products more affordable, but at the same time, maintain some sort of the profitability that everybody is faced with every day, right? You need to grow your profits. I think in 2025, one of the other issues is that we have, if you're looking at the pricing industry, the pricing managers, the revenue growth managers, we have succeeded a bit too much in the last couple of years because there's been inflation.
Yes.
And I'm always teasing pricing managers that, well, it's been an easy time for you the last 3 years because you basically looked at the inflation, look to the retailers, look to the manufacturers. Everybody is increasing prices. So why can't we? And of course we can. But we're ending up in a situation where if you're entering 2026, and some of the major CPG companies that I work with at the highest level, they're discussing, have we increased our prices too much? Have we become unaffordable? And also, are we driving too much of our profit growth from prices? Prices gone up, fine, but if volume is at the same time is going down, is that a healthy combination? And the short answer is no.
Okay, so with that said, you might have answered part of it, but as they're talking, I mean, a lot of them have done this before, right? So they have specific methods that they use, specific levers that they will pull. But right now, where are you seeing them get stuck? Where what they did before doesn't work?
I think that will depend a little bit if you look at it from a manufacturer's perspective or the retailer's perspective. From a manufacturer's perspective, a lot of them are saying, well, hey, maybe we should reduce the pack size, so-called shrinkflation. I know a lot of companies are investing big amounts in trade promotion management, trying to understand, are we really getting enough for the promotional dollars that we're spending? I see a lot of companies concerned that they've gotten into a situation where if you're having 70% volume sold on deal, again, you probably have an unhealthy business. It doesn't mean you can suddenly cut it to half, right? That's too much. But there's some concerns around that. Does shrinkflation work? Does changing to the formula, the product formula work? Does but also if you're a manufacturer, the threat of private label. Private label is growing a lot, and many manufacturers are a little bit stuck in the middle. I think personally because they're lacking what I call pricing power. Pricing power for me is the ability to move your prices without having a revolt from the consumers, from the shoppers. There's really in some brands there's no longer pricing power. Consumers and shoppers are not willing to pay what you are charging. We ran a statistic for this year where we looked at all the CPG clients we work with, and 48% of the brands are probably past the threshold where they become too expensive.
So I do have another question then along that line. So if you have 48% that are too expensive, we've seen though over the past couple of years that if I pull the lever and I start reducing my price, the normal uptick in volume isn't happening at the same level. So then a couple questions. What do I do? But why is that happening?
Yeah, I think the first element to look at is that we probably push the pricing too much, the pure pricing. Doesn't mean that you can't increase prices on certain brands, and there are certain categories that are more susceptible to a price increase simply because consumers, shoppers, retailers understand that there's still cost increases. Take an example like chocolate because of the price of cocoa beans. There's some understanding of that. There's never a full understanding. There's never full acceptance. Hey, I mean, a retail buyer would not be doing his or her job if they just accepted any price increase. But there's some understanding in specific industries. But that said, I think in the CPD space, we have relied too much on pricing. So where we probably need to look at is more around, I personally think that 2026 is going to be a lot about growing the top line, growing the consumers, looking at finding new consumers, finding new channels, finding new products, call it innovation, call it enhancement to your existing portfolio, but looking for ways to grow the top line without just relying on that here's a 5% or 10% or 15% price increase at the same time. And that's still, it's still a pricing / revenue growth management or category management exercise. It's still a question of what are the products, what are the SKUs that we can increase our prices on? What are the SKUs where we have gone too far? Are there consumer segments? Are there channels? Are there occasions? I think one of the very overlooked situations in many category managers' book is occasional pricing or occasional products and occasional assortments. There's a huge difference between pricing for I need to go shopping on Saturday morning with the family and fill up the car, or I'm going out to buy some things because we're having a movie night on Friday evening. And I'm much more willing to pay. I'm much more open to different products, more premium products in the Friday evening situation compared to my Saturday morning where it's all about affordability and will I be able to pay my bills next month?
Sure. So, boy, that opens up a lot. So let's talk about that when you mention occasional versus the stock up. So some of the larger CPGs, they are challenged right now to develop new, relevant, exciting products.
Yeah.
So the alternative is that I go and I acquire somebody, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or the other holds true that the emerging brands come in and they fill that gap. So if I'm a CPG, what is my approach? Because it's one thing to say, oh, let's bring in new products, but there's also a strategy around it, right? So, does it fit within the portfolio? Does the shopper view me in this way? Do I need to bring in a different brand or create a different brand? So can you talk a little bit about that? And specifically when you mention occasional, because that is a different mission. One, can we actually reasonably fill that gap? But then secondly, is there a price threshold there as well? Are we hitting kind of the ceiling on that also?
Yeah. Well, I mean, prices go up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be alarmist in the sense that we can't increase prices forever,
Sure.
because we can.
We can.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows that prices go up. Uh, I do see that there's a lot more M&A going on in the CPD space. There's certainly more brands being bought, or probably more prominent mergers than has been in the past. We're seeing Mars buying Kellanova. We're now seeing Kimberly-Clark buying Kenvue, all still subject to legislation and regulatory approval. But we're seeing many more big mergers, probably also with the aim of getting into some new brands and getting into some new categories where there might be higher growth. I do think that there's a bit of a supply chain question as well, in that when I'm working with CPG companies, I say, well, we can't just ask the production to make a new 3.5 ounce if we are currently selling a 4 ounce. And that is certainly true. And therefore, it's more about looking at, well, what can we do with the 4 ounce pack? Where can we sell it? What are the channels we can sell it? Make it as a different way of communicating on it. If you're looking at most of the classical consumer goods categories, there's a huge difference between the consumers who are willing to pay the most and those who are willing to pay the least. It's about finding them. It's about insights. It's understanding where you're strong. It's understanding where your brand is strong. I do think it's also about investing in what I call pricing power. So again, this relationship between what's your willingness to pay and what's your current price. If your willingness to pay is higher than your current price, you can call that above index 100. You have pricing power. The problem is, I think there's a lot of brands out there that don't enjoy that pricing power. They have increased their prices a lot, so current price has gone up, but willingness to pay hasn't been invested in enough. I do think we need to come back to that. Despite that, we can then segment by occasion, by channel, by retailer, by consumer segment, and find those who are willing to pay the most. But there's several things I really also find this is a trouble. One of them is this shrinkflation, right? We've seen a lot of bad examples. Well,
yes.
we've seen bad examples.
Yes.
We've seen the good. Shrinkflation works. That's why it's done. If you're reducing your pack size, a lot of consumers don't know if the pack of toothpaste or the chocolate bar, if that's 3.5 ounce or 4 ounce or 4.5 ounce. People don't know, and therefore it does work. That's the good side. The bad side is that sometimes manufacturers inadvertently become a bit too, let's say, inventive is maybe the nice word. The bad word is probably that they're going too far, and therefore they start to get some sort of consumer backlash or retailer backlash from that. These are really they're exploiting it too much, and then you go all the way to the really ugly ones where retailers have been seen to kick out manufacturers and say, well, these guys are not only increasing prices, but they're also reducing the pack size at the same time, which personally I think is a little bit, you shouldn't be doing both at the same time. You could reduce pack size, but then you don't change price. Or you can change price, but actually sometimes then if you do taking the price increase, then increase the pack size. Go back to the size you had last year, right? That might work. So yeah, but I think manufacturers do need to look at how can we grow the top line. I think some of them are being challenged, rightfully. from having too much of the profit growth really coming from price and to some extent mix, but more just pure price. And they need to get the balance more right in terms of we can push price, yes, certainly in some parts of the assortment, but we also need to drive the unit growth.
Okay. I just want to make sure and confirm on this. So you mentioned growing top line and looking for new consumers, new products, and what have you. On the other side, you mentioned pricing power. So when you say pricing power, can I increase my pricing power on an existing product? And
Absolutely.
how do I do that?
Well, I mean, in my somewhat simplified definition of pricing power, it is your willingness to pay over the current price. Meaning consumers, shoppers have a higher willingness to pay. They actually see value in your brand compared to what you're currently charging. If it's asked directly, people will say, no, that's a good price. I'm not going to pay more, right? But in consumer test and market research, we can actually go out and show consumers different products at different price points and test when they suddenly will no longer buy that product. So we can ascertain with about 95% accuracy what is the true willingness to pay for these consumer goods. So to answer your question, if you can push your price, you can push your willingness to pay up, or not your willingness to pay as a manufacturer, but the consumer's willingness to pay up through value-added activities, through better products, through innovations, then you can drive it up. And pricing power, I think the problem at the moment is that some manufacturers are stuck a bit in the middle. So you have the ones who have played the game well, and they can continue to take price increases, even though I think they should balance a bit more. On the other hand, you have a lot of private label, but that's also expression of pricing power. That's because actually the retailers have successfully demonstrated that they can provide a lot of value at a lower price. That's in effect also a translation of pricing power. It's a different pricing power, but it's into how close can I get to the branded goods, to the national brand. And when we work with retailers, we actually see that that's one of the key questions is that if the national brand, the well-known national brand is priced at, again, 100 or let's say $5, how close can I get with my private label? And some retailers are even having 2 or 3 lines of private label. The ones that it's really a saving opportunity, and then 1 or 2 that actually get close or even surpass some of the less powerful national brands.
Got it. So let's play this out for a minute. And you have a background in alcoholic bev, right?
Yes. Yeah. I enjoyed selling alcoholic beverages for quite a while.
Okay. So Caleb Silver, who's one of our experts, he did a presentation on one of our other platforms, and he was talking about some of the challenges with premium alcoholic beverage. Can you talk about, from your lens, what's going on there? And then when we get into this pricing power conversation, because it sounds like they're struggling, right? So what are some methods or some ideas that segment could actually use to grow their top line, find new consumers, whatever you're seeing in that arena?
Well, I think in luxury, if we're taking slightly wider, luxury goods in general are a bit. If luxury pricing and luxury marketing, if done well, it's an anomaly in pricing because it works in a different way than most other CPG brands. We expect in classical consumer goods and in the grocer, we expect that if you increase prices, volume goes down, and it does most of the time. In luxury goods and luxury pricing, we sometimes see that there's no relationship. There's either no reaction at all, or sometimes even the exact opposite, that if we are taking a price increase or making it really expensive, then there's even bigger demand. Whether we sell more is a different thing because you can control the supply, but the demand goes up. I think that some of the luxury premium brands, maybe should call it luxury, but some of the premium spirits, premium wines, beer brands, they're suffering from maybe again relying too much on, hey, we can just take a price increase. There's been inflation, everything has gone up. We are taking price increases as well. They have historically invested huge amounts of money in marketing in the brands, and I'm not suggesting that they're not investing anymore. They certainly are. But I think there needs to be an explanation, and there needs to be a justification to the final consumer or the final shopper. But this is still a premium brand. That said, I think also there's a couple of market dynamics. Like if you take something like imported beer, obviously in the US, it's very much suffering from either the actual tariffs or the threat of tariffs. Where we even imported spirits as well that have historically come a lot from Europe. I think there's also a bit of, if you look at the global picture of currency fluctuations and how's the US market doing, but the US versus European currencies have gone down by 10% this year. So if you're a European manufacturer, you automatically lost because of the US dollar's depreciation. You've lost 10% of your profit. If not more, right? So, and plus some of the historical growth markets like China, Asia, they've also slowed down a little bit. So there's many different reasons. I think there's certainly still a room for luxury beverages. I think there's an argument to there are consumers who are looking for quality. But we can't become complacent. I mean, had you spoken with me 2 years ago, we would all been excited about, hey, there's inflation, and that's the greatest excuse for pushing price, and it is. But I think we have gotten to that some categories have probably pushed price too much. In all fairness, yeah.
Okay. Well, Finn, we've been in the Real Talk segment for a little while. I want to stop for a minute because I mentioned Price Beam, but didn't really go into details. So was hoping maybe in 30 seconds or so, you could share more about your organization and how you help your clients.
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to. So at Price Beam, we help companies understand what their consumers and shoppers are willing to pay. We do that through market research, where we go out and actually ask real life consumers, real life shoppers around different hypothetical price points, different value propositions. And then we measure what they're willing to pay for the overall product, and we measure what they're willing to pay for different features, different benefits. And that in turn is used by manufacturers or retailers to then set optimal price points. We do this globally. We actually cover 127 countries worldwide, but about 50% of our business is US, and it's where we get a lot of business from, in particular, major CPD brands who want to look at, have we increased our prices too much? What should be the price in 2026? What are we going to do about these promotional spends or many other different CPD revenue growth management challenges?
Perfect. Thank you. That's good to know. So let's go back to Real Talk. And I want to switch gears and let's talk about the retailers. We spent a lot of time in the CPG world, but for retailers, we're seeing a lot of retailers that are in the midst of, I'm going to call it a land grab, especially here in the US. So you get like Aldi, they're just expanding like crazy. And in the process, some major tried and true traditional retailers are feeling the impact. Are you seeing it, and it's price related, I should say that as well. Are you seeing a systematic change in the marketplace when it comes to price? So what I mean by that is, so you have organizations that have high-low pricing and they're being supplanted by EDLP. Is that something that is going to continue to happen in your estimation? And if so, is it potentially being driven by the different generations? Is it because there's the bifurcation of household incomes and things like what is going on in that space?
Yeah, I don't think that, I think it's too early to declare high-low as a strategy for that. It's not. I think there's a space for it. I may be obviously be wrong, but I think that what we're seeing is a couple of macro trends. One of them is that consumers and shoppers go to multiple retailers. If you're looking at the average number of retailers we went to 20 years ago versus how many retailers we go to today, especially if you include also online channel, you can actually buy from the same retailer online, offline, or you have the pure play online. We go to probably 3 times as many retailers on an average shopping week as we would have done 20 years ago. And that means that we almost buy for different occasions. We buy for when we need to save money. We go to certain retailers. We go to the Aldi's. We go to the dollar stores. So, I mean, the number of households who shop in dollar stores but with a household income of more than $100,000, it's surprisingly high. And that's because people do their main grocery shop in where they say, well, that's where I'm getting the most value for the money, or I'm buying the same brand, and whether I'm paying a higher price, it's still the same product and the same brand. So I think there's a change in how we shop and how easy it is to shop. You don't necessarily need to physically go to 4 stores to get it all, or you might be willing to, because currently we also, and that's the second macro trend, there is an affordability issue in many countries, in particular in the US, but in many other countries as well. And this whole affordability challenge means that shoppers are looking for the Aldi's. If we're looking at Europe, where Aldi is originally from, I mean, they've grown market share together with the other major retailer, the discount retailer, Lidl, that has gained market share. Like there's no tomorrow. I mean, they're really, really grown. No, I mean, they're taking so much share, but they've also managed to, if you go into a classical, Aldi is slightly different than Lidl in terms of how they execute on it. But if we're seeing a classical Lidl store, they do have obviously the money-saving products and money-saving things, but they also have, they call it the premium quality products. So they're almost trying to reverse the trend of, I'll go to Aldi or Lidl for my cheap buys, and then I go to Whole Foods for my high quality food buy, or whatever. I'm just mentioning as examples. It doesn't have to be those. But if you go in a classical Lidl store, you will see, well, actually they offer some of those high quality products as well. They have all the money savers, and then they have the other ones. They're trying to reverse that trend of, I need to go to 2, 3, 4 retailers to fulfill my needs, and that I think is interesting. But the affordability issue is driving it. I don't think it's because, I think the retailers are in a fortunate position to exploit some of these macro trends, but the macro trend is the affordability and also the general access to retail, where I can shop in more shops within my shopping week.
Interesting. Yeah, I it's funny. I almost laughed because I'm like playing it out real time in my life. Like, would never have thought about going to Aldi, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could go there, and you go in there, you're like, oh, their produce isn't that bad, and also, but I don't buy everything there because they don't have everything, but it does allow me, like, okay, if I need a green pepper, I'll go there, So I think you're right that people are making different decisions, which then splinters the shop amongst different stores and formats. So I have a follow-up question when it comes to some of the retailers who are facing that headwind. So they're looking and they're saying, okay, my shoppers have told me maybe my everyday price is too high or what have you. What are your thoughts about them promoting, we've dropped thousands of prices, and then plastering it all over the store? Is that the right way? Should it be more strategic where you just pick certain key items, or do we just allow the shopper to go to the shelf and they find out when they get to the shelf?
I mean, I think there's more thought to it than there is simply by the statement of, hey, let's put 1,000 or 2,000 products on offer. I do believe that they are picking the right ones, or at least they're trying to pick the right ones. There's obviously more of a retailer branding exercise. come to my store because I'm actually quite affordable because I have all these brands that are on an everyday low price or just a generally a lower price. I think some of the things I've seen over the last, it's a little bit longer perspective, it's on the differentiation of private label, where private label, again, maybe 15, 20 years ago was one product. So there was a branded coffee and a private label coffee. There was a branded chocolate and a private label chocolate. I'm simplifying it a bit, but it was that. One of the tactics or even strategies I see is that there's multiple levels of private label. There's the private label where this will guarantee you, Mr. Shopper, a lower price, good value for money, reasonable quality, great price. But then there's something else. Maybe there's even two layers where this is a bit more premium, even more premium. It could even be more premium than the national brand in some cases. But this is us as a retailer who are guaranteeing that this is really a fantastic quality. We're sourcing from the same suppliers. We will kind of insinuate behind the scene that this is the same suppliers, it's the same quality, even better quality, and we are cutting out some of the supply chain waste that these manufacturers have. So our pitch is we actually have 3 private label levels: money saver, nearly as good, and better. And I think that that's a pricing exercise. Well, it's about looking at where can I sell and where can I get the response. And again, also, if they're offering those 2 or 3 levels, you don't need to go to 2 or 3 stores. You can maybe save a trip to one of them. So I think some retailers are stuck a bit, but others will innovate and they will try to play it around. I think retail at the moment is also benefiting a little bit from some of the latest trends in technology, like AI. One of the very interesting and exciting things I hear now is how AI is actually, we're switching from where do you find your information about products and brands? And it used to be, well, you go on Google, that's where you, and you still go on Google, and Google still has a lot of traffic, but even Google is changing, right? That if I'm searching for high quality breakfast cereals, then I will get an AI response from Google, or I will get a ChatGPT or one of the other AI engines. And actually, they are driving traffic now to the retailers. So I think a lot of the retailers are actually getting a bit of benefit from this trend as well, in that they can drive traffic to their retail sites, which is difficult to drive to the manufacturer's website because there you can't buy it. But on the retailer side, you can buy it. So if I'm looking at ChatGPT, I'm getting 5 different premium cereal brands that I want to look at. I can literally click on them from ChatGPT and I'll be taken to the retailer's website.
So I'm glad you brought up tech. So I have a question around personalization and the capabilities that tech has. And we're hearing that not only would you go on, let's say you go on a website and that website is personalized, so you see products that really matter to you. That's fine. But when it comes to, I might get a different price than you. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that's coming? And it's just personal, but I'm like, I don't want a different price. I don't want to be like demand price with Uber type scenario.
No. I think that's where there's a collision between what tech enables and what tech is being used for or should be used for. I definitely see that we're seeing more capabilities in terms of dynamic pricing. You're seeing more and more price tags on the shelf that are automatic, and at a click of a button, the retailer can change the prices. Obviously, they can do the same on the website. But we see also both from anecdotal evidence, but also definitely from research, that consumers don't like being differentiated. And if you take a business class 101 or maybe 201 at college, yes, you will be told that price differentiation is great because it means you're charging a higher price for those who are willing to pay for it. And in theory, that is the theory. But consumers react very negatively when it comes to the fairness of having a differentiated price. There's a few exceptions, like some airfares. You can get away with having a differentiated price. You're right about Uber, that yes, we have kind of learned to accept that if you need a car on Friday at midnight and you need to go home, it might be a different price than if you need to do something on Thursday at noon. But as a general rule, there's a whole interesting field of pricing psychology and behavioral economics that really shows we don't like being treated like that. At the moment, no, I mean it's just human nature. It's not even. It doesn't have to be very scientific about it. We really just don't like feeling that someone got a better deal than I did for no apparent reason. I think, again, though, there are some examples. We do see companies who, for example, are benefiting or helping retailers take off produce that is about to go off because it's right. There's some companies, external companies like Too Good To Go, which has done a very great job in this innovative space of, hey, you can find good offers of products that's basically tomorrow that it's past the sell-by date. But if you buy it now, you can get a discount. You have retailers who are doing that in-house. It's the same thing. I think there's some of that is fair for the consumer. But just because you came on Friday morning and I went to the store on Saturday morning, and I have to pay 20% more than you, that the backlash is bigger than the benefit of adjusting the price. Short term, you might get away with it as a retailer or as a manufacturer. Typically, the retailer is more than a manufacturer. But I think we haven't changed the mind of the consumer, changed the mind of the shopper enough that this is a fair practice.
Okay. So I'm going to do a follow-up question on that. So then why do we have a situation where we get a different price online versus in store?
Well, I think that's also my personal opinion more than based on hard facts. I think that's also questionable. I think it's a bit questionable as well. It's true that we sometimes do. But I see in some international markets, I see actually a bit of the opposite reaction, where they literally promote themselves as this is the same price as in store. Or at least this product, this line, this item is at the same price as because there's been consumer sentiment goes up and down, and consumer sentiment changes rather quickly in cycles. So I think we might see that there will be some backlash. I can argue it if I was an accountant. I can argue it if I'm a finance person, but the average consumer is not a finance person, and the average consumer doesn't like it. So I think some retailers will see that there's a benefit of branding themselves that they don't do that.
Sure.
And others will reap the benefits of keeping it.
Awesome. Well, we've been real talking for a while here, Finn. Any final words that you have, things you're seeing, things that we should anticipate that you might want to share with our audience?
Well, I think as both retail and CPG, and especially with my pricing hat on, I do find that there's a lot of growth potential still in the pricing space. We're still doing too many things that are, because the way we've always done it as a discipline. I've been in the pricing space for 20 years. I've seen how it's grown from that there was senior managers at the most to now it's very common to have VPs who are working in the pricing space, both on the retail side and also on the CPG manufacturer side. I think there's a lot of potential for us to grow, but it also means we need to become more sophisticated. We need to have better insights. So we need to stay on top of the consumer. If we're not on top of the consumer, if we don't understand the consumer and relying on some sort of Excel model to predict what we knew 2 years ago about consumers. The Excel says that this is 2026. No, we need to get good insights, and we need to refresh those insights. But then also becoming more sophisticated in our pricing without alienating them, without disrupting the fairness that is perceived, but finding those who really want to pay the most for our goods and services.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, Finn. As we close, If somebody's interested in talking to you more about pricing, what you do, how you might be able to help, where should they go?
Well, you can always go to our website, pricebeam.com, where we have a wealth of examples, both for retailers and CPG manufacturers, of how we help them. And I'm also more than happy to speak with people directly if they want to email me at finn.hansen@pricebeam.com, and I'll be happy to help with any queries.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Finn. This was great.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. You answered a lot of just like personal questions I had. So really appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So you've just listened to a Tech Talk episode of ARCast. Please look forward to more interesting people like Finn in the weeks to come. And also, please don't forget to share ARCast and this Tech Talk approach with your colleagues. For feedback, topic suggestions, or guest recommendations, please go to www.catman.global/ARCast. Just need you to go down to the bottom of the screen, and there's a form down there. It goes directly to me, and I'll get back to you. Just like Finn and his group did, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today's episode was produced by Zach Peterson and edited by Jake Nemi, and was recorded at Studio Xerxes in Minnesota. Our theme music was brought to you by Bryant Lowry. And a special thanks to my friends at the Association of Retail and Consumer Professionals for their promotion and management. That's it for today. Signing off, this is James Jackson, and I will see you on our next episode. Have a great day.